Hey, how's it going? It's all right. I'm almost done, but I have to write this annoying extra credit paper on the Declaration of Independence, and it's due tomorrow. I don't know why he wants us to do this. I mean, none of this is going to be on the bar. Yeah, I know. I can't wait to see you all so soon. Okay. Good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Maya, Maya, come with me. We need to go.
I can't. I have to finish my paper. Oh, God.
I'll help you finish it. Trust me. We'll finish it together.
Okay. Wait, I think I know one of them.
Let's hear what they got to say.
All right, fellas, please go easy on it.
I really think it's quite good, Thomas. Quite good indeed.
So you don't regret an old Joe from Virginia writing it, do you?
I remain perfectly satisfied with my decision.
And what about you, Ben? I don't suppose you'd let my confidence be too wild, would you?
I'm afraid I cannot take any part of this treasonous affront against our beloved Majesty.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's treason. It's more a bit sassy.
And critical enough if you ask me, but perhaps too critical if you ask some of our convention's other delegates.
So I guess you're referring to my last paragraph, my litany of grievances.
I'm glad that it's plain for you to see.
Well, this paragraph is very important to me. I chose my words carefully when writing it, but I do understand that everyone's vote is needed in order for this to pass.
Yes, I'm afraid that criticizing this exorable commerce would offend too many of our other sister colonies. Forgive me. I need to remember to use the word states henceforth.
Perhaps this issue would be better suited for our own internal deliberation than our external declarations.
Very well. And what are these stylistic decisions, John?
Well, it's my opinion that the language, it could be truncated. A stronger, more forceful address to posterity is, I believe, in order. Say, wait, what are you drinking, Ben?
Boston Summer Lager. Your cousin Sam brews a good one.
That he does indeed. Anyway, perhaps, for example, we should leave it at equal instead of equal and independent, and inalienable instead of inalienable and inherent. But what about sacred and undeniable? How may we abbreviate this? My God, that smells good. What is this concoction?
Oh, it's a Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwich. It's certainly a self-evident name, isn't it? Wait a second.
Wait, so how many calories are in that thing?
I think about 1,776.
Ben, won't you at some point listen to reason about your gout? And what about your stone? Aren't you worried that might return?
Nay, but I know of no other sandwich that is more satisfactory and pleasing to the senses. However, I must warn you that it shall come to cause me to expel a most disagreeable wind.
Well, let's just go ahead and finish this then.
Someone must be hungry.
Yeah, I went to bed without eating dinner. It did smell really good, although I have a feeling I'm imagining things.
I think so. We're going to have to wait a while for Pat's to open up shop. But what'd you think of our trio? Did they live up to the hype?
Well, Ben Franklin? Hilarious. I would love to hang out with him.
Oh, he's a character.
John Adams seemed cool too. I love the way that they spoke back then.
So what did you think about their thoughts on me? I mean, the Declaration.
I didn't really get everything they were talking about. It seems like they were mostly making political calculations, though.
Well, that's the gist of it. The Declaration was more of a political manifesto than a legal document. I'm pretty much just a big human rights declaration.
What were they saying at the end? About execrable commerce? course?
Right. So Jefferson's original draft of the Declaration blamed the King of England for the transatlantic slave trade, which he said was an evil that was forced on the colonies. Of course, a good number of the colonies wanted to remain anyway. Franklin and Adams thought it best to remove this, not to offend them. Jefferson himself, despite his consistent public and private condemnation of slavery, remained a slave owner throughout his entire life.
I don't think that makes my essay any easier to write.
Well, why don't we skip 11 years and see if our next scene gives you any ideas?
It looks like we're in the exact same place.
We are. I mean, you can't tell the difference between the styles from the 1770s and the 1780s.
Our government ought to have 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. Each branch structured to check the other. Being highly centralized, the government shall have veto power over laws enacted by state legislatures. We are in need of a strong, consolidated union in which the idea of states should be nearly annihilated.
New Jersey proposes not a hodgepodge, but a union of the states, merely federal. We call for a revision of the Articles to enable the Congress to more easily raise revenues and regulate commerce. But we agree that acts of Congress and ratified treaties should be the supreme law of the states.
Here comes Hamilton. I'm slightly fangirling.
It is unquestionable that the British government is the best in the world, and we ought, therefore, to adopt one quite similar. I propose an executive to serve during good behavior, or life, with veto power over all laws, a Senate with members serving during good behavior, and a legislature to have power to pass all laws whatsoever. Or in other words,
without a doubt, the Brits figured it out. So when we mint this new government, let's do a similar thing. We'll let freedom ring, just without a king. We'll call him an executive to serve as long as they live without a crime to forgive. And we'll give him the power to veto, in other words, to say no, any law passed by a legislature and a good-natured Senate. We're not gonna regret it.
So he's basically proposing that America have a king and a House of Lords, which you can imagine wasn't that popular an idea.
Why would he want that?
I mean, for one thing, he was a big Anglophile, and he figured that if their government works so well, we should just adopt the same form. And he also just generally preferred having a strong federal government to a weaker one.
Virginia is only willing to accept a proposal in which voting in Congress is according to population.
And so you may propose it, but New Jersey insists upon the equality she has enjoyed thus far under the Articles. And what is more, Mr. Hamilton ought to understand that our people have too many memories of British rule to at any point accept another king.
Gentlemen, restrain yourselves. And will someone please wake Mr. Franklin? I'm beginning to regret having any agency in these proceedings.
Excuse me.
What is it, Mr. Ellsworth?
I have a proposal.
Go ahead with it.
Why don't we have representation for the lower house be based on the number of free persons, along with 3/5 of all other persons, and taxation be according to representation, with the Senate equality, of course.
Well, I don't hear any screaming. That must be a good thing. Why don't we adjourn for the rest of the day for consideration of this?
So much for all men are created equal.
Well, Jefferson's words, and the ideas behind them, which he did not come up with by himself, by the way, are true. But the country wasn't ready to live up to them. Not yet, at least. So from here on, the delegates agreed to the structure of the government, and Madison and Hamilton and John Jay, who was actually the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, set to work writing pamphlets to persuade the people of each state to ratify the Constitution. Their articles comprised the Federalist Papers, which you may have heard of. Oh, and there was one particularly notable influence of the Declaration of Independence on the Constitution. A lot of the anti-federalists, or the people opposed to the Constitution, said they wouldn't agree to it without a Declaration of Rights. So Madison, James Madison, drafted 12 amendments to the Constitution, 10 of which were then ratified, and these 10 amendments make up what's called?
The Bill of Rights.
Exactly. Answer daily double.
I was just studying for a Crim Pro exam on 4, 5, and 6.
Don't forget 8.
Oh, right. I definitely don't know which one that is.
So, any predictions on what's going to happen next?
Let me think. Marbury v. Madison?
Well, technically, yes, that's correct, but larger picture-wise, I mean.
Eventually there will be a civil war.
Exactly. Gosh, isn't that depressing? No time to waste, though. Let's move on, shall we?
Wow, he's actually pretty tall.
And strong, too. And he didn't sound like Bob Dylan a la Daniel Day-Lewis's version.
Who's Bob Dylan?
Okay, I'm going to forget you asked that. Anyway, we're visiting our favorite country lawyer president right after the Battle of Gettysburg. By the way, did you know that lawyers didn't have to take the bar exam back then?
That must be nice. Although, I guess I'd trade not having to take it for the internet and electricity.
And voting rights, etc., etc. Okay, here he comes.
Mr. President, I have wonderful news. Meade's army has defeated Lee at Gettysburg.
My, what a dandy pronouncement. The good Lord has surely blessed us today. Have we been finally able to trap Lee and put an end to this cursed war?
Well, Mr. President,
Please, General, please tell me that Lee has surrendered. I need to hear those words.
I'm afraid, Mr. President, that Lee's army has escaped back into Virginia.
Hold me, General. Oh, Mary Todd is really going to let me hear it this time.
Meade is pursuing Lee, of course, but he thought it essential to regroup before another engagement. Our casualties have been immense.
I'm afraid in this godforsaken conflict such as this, there can be no other result. That's why we must act aggressively to put an end to it. Meade and I are going to have a frank conversation on the subject. It may be time for him to go back and spend some more time on those beautiful lighthouses down in the Swanee River. I need a true general. I need a strong general. I need a general who can put down a bottle of whiskey before lunchtime and still stand up straight.
General, Mr. President, we received this wire from the West. More outstanding news. Vicksburg has finally been captured.
What a blessing. What's our commander's name again? Odysseus?
Ulysses Grant, sir.
Ah, Ulysses Grant. With a name like that, you must have some mighty thick skin. I need to meet this man.
General, your presence is requested at headquarters. May I be excused, Mr. President?
Yes, of course. I could use a moment alone anyway. What am I to tell the mothers of those fallen boys? What am I to tell old Mary Todd, this damn Civil War that's tested our nation and each and every one of us to the very limit? And I can't say for sure whether it's the evil work of the devil or just punishment by God Almighty. But there's one thing I'm sure of. This war will verily end, and when it does, our nation, as Fred Douglass would always say, will for the first time be truly able to fulfill that beautiful proposition on which it was founded. Those so many years ago, that all men are created equal, that liberty and freedom can and shall endure on this earth. By Jove, I think it's right and in good order that we consecrate the ground of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, as the final resting place for those who gave their lives, that our nation might live. The world won't remember us for too long, but it ought not to ever forget what those brave men did there. And we must never forget the unfinished work that they have thus far advanced. That great task remaining, that is, that this nation, God willing, shall have a new birth of everlasting freedom. O Lord, let us make it so.
Was that the Gettysburg Address?
Well, it was sort of a demo version of it, a take one, if you will. What a sweet guy. All right, buckle up. We've still got some ground to cover.
President Wilson is going to speak to the public about the League of Nations. The suffragettes have finally achieved their dream. The 19th Amendment has passed the House and Senate and is now going to the states. What an historic day for their movement. And here comes Ruth to the plate. Oh, and a magnificent shot by the Bambino. And the Yankees take a 3-1 lead. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important news bulletin. The stock market has taken a plunge today. And the Martians are invading Paterson, New Jersey. Oh, the humanity.
We shall fight them in the bars. We shall fight them in the pubs and in the nightclubs. We shall fight them in the breweries and the distilleries of our great island.
You all may remember my 4 freedoms speech 4 years ago today. The first is freedom of speech and expression. The second, the freedom of every person to worship God in their own way. The third, freedom from want. And the fourth is freedom from fear anywhere in the world. This republic began under the protection of certain inalienable political rights. But in our day, certain economic truths have become accepted as self-evident. So these 4 freedoms, to the 4 freedoms, I now add what I can call the second Bill of Rights, namely the right to be a useful and remunerative job, the right to earn enough money to provide for adequate food and clothing and recreation, freedom from unfair competition and the domination of monopolies, the right of every family to a decent home, the right of adequate medical care and an opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, and the right to a good education.
I never knew about that speech.
Yeah, he took some of my language and then he really ran with it. Do you see how we've progressed a bit?
Right. Education and medical care weren't even part of the discussion in 1776.
But it's hard to pursue happiness without them, isn't it? Oh, check out my main man.
Oh, this blasted headache. I think I require a little more apple juice. Yes. Would you care for some, Franklin?
Maybe a small glass.
All these glasses look the same to me, I'm afraid.
Franklin, may I come in for a moment?
Of course, Eleanor. How may I help you this morning?
Would you mind if I gave my speech from in here? There seems to be a problem with the transmission over in the East Wing.
I have no objection. Winston and I were just going over to the Pentagon to meet with General Marshall.
Oh, excellent. Please give George my regards. And Winston, please give my love to Clementine.
Who?
Your wife, Winston.
Ah, yes, of course. I was just testing you to make sure you're not, drunk.
Quite.
Winston, I suppose we ought to change our attire and perhaps have our drinks another time.
This is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning.
And now, a message from the First Lady.
My fellow Americans, the basic problem confronting the world today is the preservation of human freedom for the individual. We are fighting this battle again today as it was fought at the time of the French Revolution and at the time of the American Revolution. The issue of human liberty is as decisive now as it was then. Now, sometimes the processes of democracy are slow, and I have known some to say that a dictatorship would accomplish the ends desired in a shorter time than it takes our democratic processes. And I hear from all corners criticism of our own illiberalism. We Americans recognize that we have problems, including those of discrimination. But we find steady progress being made toward the solution of these problems, and we permit free discussion on the subject. The future must see the broadening of human rights throughout the world. In the truest sense, human rights
are a fundamental object of law and government in a just society.
Wasn't she great?
Yeah, she really was.
Fun fact, she was instrumental in drafting the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. She was actually the chair of the committee that helped push it through.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So, not to brag, but I actually influenced the entire international legal system. Not bad for a kid from Philly.
I'd say you did pretty well in life.
Oh, I'm just getting started. But tell me more about you. What's Maya, the future lawyer's story?
Well, there's not really much to say. I was born in Florida. I've been there my whole life. My parents are from New York. My grandparents are from...
Second generation. I love that. I was born here too, but I did one of those ancestry tests, and it said that I'm 70% English, which wasn't a surprise, but also a little Greek, and Italian, and a tiny bit Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern?
Yeah, it says I go all the way back to what is modern-day Israel and also Mesopotamia.
That's cool.
Speaking of families, I think you'll like our next trip.
Susan, the news is about to start.
I'll be right there.
I think the marchers on Washington, especially Dr. King, should be commended for exercising their right to peaceably assemble. Yes, go ahead. What do I think of the what? The women's liberation movement? I don't have any particular comment on the subject other than to say, of course, that I love women. Yes, go ahead. Well, I think Miss Monroe is a wonderful actress, but I have nothing more to say on the subject. That is categorically false. I would never say that I am a jelly donut. I am not a jelly donut, and I would never make a statement to that effect. Well, I think the situation in Cuba is improving. I just spoke with President Castro, who has agreed to send 40,000 cigars to Hyannisport in exchange for us not trying to kill him anymore. However, on another note, the state of affairs in South Vietnam is unfortunately devolving, and I think it's in our national interest to reduce our involvement. And I believe Vice President Johnson shares my belief. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go see my brother Bobby and his son Bobby Jr. He is a strong little lad. He can do a lot of push-ups and pull-ups. You ever get tired of all these squares laying heavy bummers on you all the time?
Well, I wouldn't use that language to describe our situation. I am disheartened like any human ought to be, who has witnessed to injustice or subjected it to themselves. But the cause I dream of, for which we are fighting, non-violently, I emphatically add, is of such importance that by simple participation, my soul and spirit undergo a continuous process of rejuvenation that is able to all but override any natural feelings of sadness or despondency I may have.
Ah, you're watching state-controlled media?
You bet I am, and if you don't like it, you can go read your underground newspapers somewhere else.
Nah, I'm hip to Cronkite, man. I just know where he's at, that's all.
Did you see that amazing King speech?
Yeah, I heard it on the radio. You know, I dig King. He's a heavy trip. But you think King is ever going to stick it to the man? I mean, he's all about the bread. When you think a cat like Kennedy is ever going to get hip, he's jumping bad, man.
Susie, will you please tell your beatnik boyfriend to stop smoking so much dope?
Hey, no, you got it all wrong. I'm just keeping it real, that's all. It's a big drag, man. But if you want me to split, I'll split. But I don't need no dame to tell me to do that.
Will you please just cool out? God, it never ends with you two. And Tony, try reading The Feminine Mystique sometime.
He ought to read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
And you ought to get hip to Dylan.
You have such a beautiful grandmother.
Thanks. It's so cool to see her at that age. She was an amazing woman.
What did she end up doing for a career?
Well, she was a teacher at first. She taught civics, social studies, and Spanish out of middle school right where I live. And then, right around this time, I think, she went to law school. She worked as a legal aid in New York for the rest of her career.
A fellow public servant. I love her already. And what a trooper going back to law school. I could have never gotten through law school. I'm too much of a daydreamer.
I sort of feel the same way.
So, you know where we're going to go next, right?
Please stop it. Wait. You know what? This is normally where I'd get off, but I'm up for watching Grandma get cold called. Let's do it.
Okay, well, before we leave Brooklyn, let's go grab a slice.
All right, everyone, I have to go back to law school. I'll see you all in a few weeks.
See you soon, sweetheart.
Bye, Susan.
Take it easy over there, Susie.
All right, Mr. Brobug, please explain the court's reasoning in Griswold versus Connecticut.
Hey, Professor, can we take a rain check on this one?
Look, buddy, I'm not your golf partner. I'm Professor Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and when you're in my class, you read the cases. You got that, buddy? If you don't, you hit the bricks.
Oh, you just got Ginsburned.
What? A Ginsburg? All right, I'll take it. Now, who wants to help bail him out? You, Susan, go ahead.
Professor, the Supreme Court, in their holding that a right to privacy can be inferred from several penumbras in the Bill of Rights, reasoned that privacy and security are the basis at which all law is founded. Justice Goldberg, in his concurrence, referenced Justice Brandeis's dissent in Olmstead, which I think perfectly summarizes the reasoning. Right here. The protection guaranteed by the Fourth and Fifth Amendments is broader, much broader in scope. The makers of our Constitution undertook to secure conditions favorable to the pursuit of happiness. They recognized the significance of man's spiritual nature. They sought to protect people in their beliefs, their thoughts, their emotions, and their sensations. They conferred, as against the government, the right to be let alone, the most comprehensive of rights and the right most valued by civilized men.
You hear that, buddy? That's how you summarize a case holding. I'm still impressed that the justices were able to work in the word penumbra. That's a gig I wouldn't mind having one day. Anyways, let's end this class on a high note, and I'll see you all next week.
All right, guys.
Hi, Professor. I've been thinking of writing an article about the equal protections clause, and I was wondering if I could maybe interview you on the subject.
Equal protection, huh? Now that's a topic I have a lot to say about. You know, the country was founded on the basis of equal protection, but like a lot of resolutions that people make, well, we're still working on it. But anyways, just stop by my office one day and we'll have a good conversation about it.
Oh, I will. Thanks. I'll talk to you real soon.
And Susan, keep fighting for what you think is right. And if you can do it in a way that people like you, then that's all the more better.
Thank you, Professor.
That's right. Grandma was always so proud to have been one of RBG's students. She never stopped talking about her. Got a little annoying, actually.
RBG was such a trailblazer. I like to think that we're kindred spirits, although I don't think I'm as tough as she was. I mean, getting rejected by 12 law firms despite being the best applicant, I don't know how I'd handle that.
You're definitely as tough as her. Don't forget, you're the one that inspired her to fight so hard.
Aw, thanks, Maya. Sometimes I need to hear that. And, oh, there's one more trailblazer. A friend of mine I'd like to show you before we're finished. Let's try to get there before they run out of seats.
Wait, is that Sandra Day O'Connor?
Yes, indeed. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first female justice to serve on the United States Supreme Court. Sandy is a riot. She's part of this wacky in-of-court group where judges and lawyers dress up and put on skits. You know what? You should join it, actually. We have law students in the inn as well.
Wait, really?
Yes. Well, here she is, back in Philly, receiving the Liberty Medal Award at the National Constitution Center.
Here, in 1787, a group of delegates from 12 of the then 13 states met to draft a new national charter. Now, naturally, as someone who interprets it day in and day out, a Supreme Court justice is bound to have an interest in our nation's Constitution. But We must not be among the only citizens who are so inclined. Our interpretation of the Constitution is considered binding, but when it comes to putting this into practice, ultimately, the court must rely on the other branches. You may have heard President Jackson's remark, Justice Marshall has made his decision. Now, let him enforce it. This reminds us of something we take for granted, that without devotion to the rule of law, liberty would be impossible. It is my dearest hope that the Supreme Court may always serve as the protector of individual rights, but our Constitution is not and could never be only defended by a group of judges. As one of our greatest justices, Leonard Hand, once said, liberty lies in the hearts of men and women. When it dies there, no constitution, no law can save it. And so, I'll close with the words of James Madison to remind everyone that the advancement and diffusion of knowledge is the only guardian of true liberty. And what greater knowledge could there be than that all people are created equal?
That was beautiful.
Agreed. And what better reminder could there be of the work still to be done to make sure that our government and the citizens of the country continue to uphold and improve upon on the ideals and beliefs outlined in me. A little sheet of 250-year-old paper.
Paper. Oh my gosh, I know how to finish my paper.
Maya, you ready to be sworn in?
Yes.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida?
I do solemnly swear. Woohoo!
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountain side, let freedom
On behalf of the Craig S. Barnard American Inn of Court, we welcome Judge Douglas H. Ginsburg, who is a senior judge for the United States Courts of Appeals in the District of Columbia Circuit and a professor at the George Mason University Scalia Law School. Judge, thank you so much for joining us and for your time. So, starting with just generally at a foundational level, how should we understand the Declaration of Independence within our system of law?
That's a bit tricky in that declaration is no longer treated specifically. The natural law principles expressed in the Declaration are no longer treated as law in American courts. In the period early in the founding and through perhaps the middle of the 19th century, these principles were cited by courts and argued to courts in a way that declined over that time for a variety of reasons. Today, a lawyer arguing specifically from the principles in the Declaration or the Declaration itself would just simply not be heard. It would be treated as sort of out of bounds on the ground that that's not real law. Quite a radical change from what was practiced early on, and I suppose was expected even by those who drafted the Declaration, that it would have, because of its being based on natural law principles, would have standing in court, as it were. The result is that here we are without the benefit, the founding principles on which our country was based. I think one rather sensible but not yet accepted solution was to treat the Declaration as establishing a presumption of liberty, so that when we interpret the Constitution, we do so with that presumption in mind.
So then, as time progresses and we look at maybe modern legal reasoning, would you say then that the Declaration is primarily historical more than it is aspirational or interpretive?
Well, I think that's a fair description of the state of play. I don't think it has to be that way. I would love to see it changed. That is more or less where we are. The Declaration is treated as a historical artifact. I think it's certainly true that outside a court of law, the Declaration is accepted by a large swath of the public as stating our national aspirations with regard to liberty and equality. And it's for that reason that the Declaration has been picked up over the course of our history by groups who were not being treated equally or who did not have that liberty, and used to confront the nation with this departure from principles in the Declaration. This was quite clearly done, perhaps for the first time in an important way, by the Women's Convention at Seneca Falls, New York, in, I think it was 1848, in which they undertook to rewrite the Declaration of Independence in such a way as to expressly include women. And attending that conference, that meeting in Seneca Falls, was Frederick Douglass. And Frederick Douglass then himself took up the Declaration as a way of holding America up to its own hypocrisy. In his great speech, "What is your 4th of July to us?" delivered on July 5th, I think, 1852, and asking, are we not, African Americans, not within the concept of all men being created, all mankind being created equal? And then, of course, maybe most famously used by Dr. Martin Luther King in his great speech in 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial, the I Have a Dream speech, in which he refers to the Declaration as a promissory note long overdue. That declaration, by the way, has been cited in the founding documents of well over 100 countries, ranging from its immediate successor, the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, which refers to natural rights being inalienable and imprescriptible, and beyond the particular words, drawing on the ideas from the Declaration, to, at the other extreme in some ways, in modern times, the Declaration of Independence of Vietnam, which was drafted and announced by Ho Chi Minh on the day in 1945 after Japan surrendered at the end of World War II.
How would you say, or how would you recommend then applying and using the Declaration to influence our understanding of the rule of law, and work towards a world where it continues to inform the spirit of the law for us, even though it doesn't control?
Well, political equality is the essence of the rule of law. Right on the Supreme Court's front portico, it says equal justice under law. It wouldn't be law, really, if it weren't equal justice, if it weren't equal. So to that extent, we are conscious as a country and as a profession of the necessity of equal treatment as a prominent feature of the rule of law.
And in your perspective, what would you say advancing the rule of law really mean in everyday legal work, not just for the judiciary, but for practitioners and attorneys everywhere? And how would they take that spirit as they apply it in their everyday legal work?
Well, it's very difficult to do so. We should be keeping it in mind and seeing opportunities where they arise, if they do, to draw upon the Declaration. And I think those opportunities occur, for the most part, outside the courtroom, almost exclusively outside the courtroom, when we talk and teach about the rule of law. And that's something that is, I think, very much on the minds of many lawyers and certainly many judges during this semiquincentennial year, our 250th anniversary of the Declaration.
So as we wrap up here, what principle would you say in the Declaration that you find yourself returning to most often in your work and in your day-to-day?
Well, since my work has involved making materials for civics instruction in schools and declaration and a 3-hour special for public television stations on the Constitution, I think the thing that comes to mind foremost for me is the centrality of the principles in the Declaration to our entire self-image as a people, as a nation, under the rule of law. Every time the Pledge of Allegiance is recited, we're reminded there of one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. That's resonant of the Declaration right there. And it's in our classrooms, some of them anyway, and in our meeting spaces to an increasing degree, thank goodness. I don't think enough Americans realize that our Declaration of Independence, for the first time, principles that have swept the world since then and were basically unknown before then, particularly governance by and with the consent of the governed, and political equality for everyone equally. Those ideas have swept the world. Are not triumphant everywhere. There are still close to 2 billion around the world who don't have governments that in any way approximate those ideals. But they have taken over the world's and to the benefit of about 3/4 of the people now on the planet. Inconceivable, at least unconceived, let's put it that way, before 1775.
Judge, thank you so very much for your time and for your thoughts. We greatly appreciate it. Do you have any closing remarks or any additional thoughts to share as we wrap up here?
Well, just remember that the Declaration is still aspirational and always will be. There will always be, at least as long as humans are imperfect, there will be departures from the equality and liberty that the Declaration holds out. We've done a better job, I think, in this country than probably any other in making progress towards true equality. But there is always going to be a ways to go.
Judge, thank you so very much again on behalf of the Craig S. Barnard American in Court.
Thank you.